Good evening. Welcome to the June 22nd meeting. We have Library Commission. I'd like to now call the meeting to order and have Commissioner Wood lead us in the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Somebody told that GAC.
So the first item on the agenda tonight is a bit of a change in our public comment period, and I'm going to read a policy change. So at the May 18th, 2022 meeting, there were members of the public that expressed some annoyance at having to wait until the end of the commission's meeting before they could address commissioners under the public comment section of the agenda, which has been the commission's position for many years apparently. So the commissioners have discussed this, and to show respect for the public, the commission will now conduct a public comment section at the start of the meeting to allow the public opportunity to comment on agenda items and ask other questions, so that we can get that out of the way and you don't have to wait like the last month that was potentially during that meeting. So this is a trial. We want to see how this works. Currently, we're proposing that this period is limited to 30 minutes. Each member of the public wishing to speak will be given a maximum of 3 minutes. At 2.5 minutes, Commissioner Lambert, who is the secretary, will raise a hand to alert the speaker they have another ½ minute to wrap up. Non-speaking members of the public will not be allowed to donate their time to another speaker, and the 3-minute per person rule will be strictly adhered to. This is a public comment period, and we're extending this respect to members of the public. And as such, we're respectfully requesting that employees of the commission or Gunstock Resort refrain from questions or comments and make those comments through their supervisors or Gunstock managers. We'd like to thank you in advance for cooperation in this new policy and adherence to our policy change.
If I understood you correctly, you said that the commissioners met and discussed this?
No.
When did the commissioners meet?
Vice Chair Strang brought this up with me and made the proposal.
So 2 commissioners made this decision.
That's correct.
It's actually the chairman's choice as to how to run meetings. That is outlined in the bylaws.
I'm just trying to clarify. You said the commissioners met. Now I know what to do with it. Thank you.
Would you feel more comfortable if we had a vote right here and now on this new policy?
Well, I for one, think that if I was invited into that meeting, I would have
It
brought up
wasn't a
the issue
meeting,
that
Gary. It was
it's
a
hard for
conversation.
people-
It was not a meeting. You're referencing something that did not happen. It was a conversation. It actually was a
That's not where
consequence
that's
of
not
public
where I'm
input.
going. That's not where I'm going. I'm commenting on the act of having the public comment period before the meeting. It's very difficult for the public to have a comment on a meeting that hasn't been held.
Well, actually, if I may, if you go to the bylaws on the website, this is actually on page 10 of the bylaws, and it was listed as a draft agenda, which was amended in June of 2018. Shortly thereafter, you, as part of the commission, changed this and started putting it at the end, okay? So the draft bylaws have public comment right up front in the meeting. And again, to show respect for the public so that they can comment on agenda items before they're voted on. I can understand where they had to wait 3 or 4 hours for the last several months because our meetings have been very lengthy, that they would be annoyed at not being able to comment on things until after they've been discussed and voted on. In fact, it's in the minutes from the main meeting that people were upset that they had to wait. So we're being very responsive to the public's comments and saying, okay, we will now do the public comment section up front, okay? And that is in accordance to the way it was set up 4 years ago. And during your tenure as chairman, you somehow changed that and put it at the end. So we're actually going back to what's listed on the website under the bylaws as a draft agenda. I can show it to you if you want, but you look puzzled.
It doesn't matter to me what was and what is. The question is, what's right?
Correct.
What's right? What is the
Correct.
right thing to do? And it's my position, and I think I'm hearing support from the public. It's my position that it would be more appropriate to have it afterwards. And if you let me finish, please. What I did as chairman, I frequently paused during the meeting because I knew there were certain topics that the public would like to speak to. And I would ask, first of all, the delegation members, that I don't see any delegation members here tonight.
Whiteboard's right here.
Oh,
Department of Commonwealth right there.
thank you. I would pause and ask the delegation members if they had any questions or comments. And then I would ask for that subject matter, were there any comments from the public? So that they didn't have to wait until 11:15 through all of the others that had no interest. And that was a way to manage the meeting proactively and accomplish what I think you're trying to do, is not have people wait till 11:15. And God forbid that we do that again. But that would be my recommendation, that we have public comment period at the end, but that at the chair's discretion, based on the subject matter, if in fact it appears to be something that's appropriate, that the public would have commentary, or if the public starts waving their hands and saying, we'd like to comment on this, to give them an opportunity at that time to be relevant.
That would be one other way of doing it, but Chairman Ness has proposed a different alternative that conforms with the bylaws as published on the website.
So why don't we try this and we'll see what happens? And then we can address it, so we digress from that.
Mr. Chair, can I just ask again the instruction for the gunstock employees? Can you repeat that?
What we're asking is, because in prior meetings, my recollection is that there were a fair number of questions from gunstock employees that were often leading off the comment period. This is meant for taxpayers, thank you, and members of the public. And if gunstock employees have questions or comments, I'm not suggesting that they're excluded, but we would request that they go through their supervisors or management internally to ask questions, rather than take a limited period of time that we're affording to taxpayers and other public members to ask questions.
But they got tax.
Half the employees
They
are taxpayers. I pay taxes.
If they have questions of the commission, you're stating you would like them to go through us to get to you,
Well,
is that what I'm understanding?
We have been told in the past that we don't understand financial matters because we haven't done our homework, is my recollection of one set of questions. Okay? And so if someone has that belief, I would just assume have them talk with your supervisor, so that perhaps the general manager can say, people don't think that you understand this expenditure, and you need to explain it.
So the crux of the questions have been more to that line of questioning? I don't recall that, so I'm just a little.
I have a distinct recollection of that happening more than once with respect to the same topic.
Friends, we're already approaching 10 minutes after 6. Why don't we begin the public comment? The last meeting did adjourn at 10:58, and we do have a lot to cover. Chairman Ness has proposed that perhaps we periodically do break for public comment as reasonable. So could we please move forward with the agenda, begin the public comment?
With that, thank you, Commissioner. With that being said, is there any member of the public that would like to make a comment or a question?
Thank you for the guide, I especially appreciate that. So I'm a taxpayer, so I'm really concerned why your first employees to go through their supervisor, knowing that I was the one that made the comment about being frustrated having to wait till the very end. So I would like to recommend or ask the GAC to periodically check in with the public about comment. It's not just important to me as an employee, but as a taxpayer. And for you to say that, to me, it came across very careless. Dr. Strang referenced the draft bylaws. I just wondered where those were available, because the ones that were available online, just so happened to clear them today, said that, in the beginning it asked for correspondence. And so I do remember that once upon a time, there were people would write letters to the commission and they would be read at the beginning of a meeting. So if it exists that it says public comment in the beginning, I'd love to have access to the draft bylaws. But I would encourage you to continue to take questions from the public, the taxpayers, the employees, all of the above, because people are very passionate about this mountain. They care. They have experience. And I think that sometimes we benefit from listening. Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Larson, I believe.
Ruth Larson from Alton. I would like to say that as a member of the public and a taxpayer, and I'm sorry to say a former Gunstock commissioner also, I would like to hear from the employees of Gunstock. I have utmost faith in senior management, but that doesn't mean I don't want to also hear from the other employees. I think what we're witnessing here gradually with Gunstock, with the majority of the current Gunstock Commission, is what is sometimes called death by 1,000 cuts. It's a form of torture and execution where the slices are done and gradually the body dies. And that's what seems to be happening here.
Yes.
Hi, Joyce, Laconia. I'm actually here because I am concerned about the audit committee and the issues involving the audit itself, and the fact that we can't comment on that after it's been discussed, when I understand more of the situation, is not a functional way to deal with this, and that's why I'm thinking somehow comments have to be available at the end, even if you're doing comments in the beginning.
Thank you. We'll take that under advisement.
Hi, Cindy Caprito, Meredith. So are we going to be able to comment throughout the meeting at the end of topics, or is this our only opportunity? I'm confused at this point.
So I think I tried to explain that this is a trial. We want to see how this goes. We need to see what the conversation is like tonight on various matters. We're trying to avoid another 5.5-hour meeting. And so this is an attempt to allow the public to ask questions. If there are areas that are of particular concern that I believe we need to address with contemporaneous comments from the public at that time, we will make that decision.
So you're gonna make the decision after each one, you're not going to? I'm trying to figure out, do I make my comments now, or do I wait? The meeting, I don't know what I'm commenting on, because the meeting hasn't started.
Yeah.
That's my confusion. It's unfortunate that the meeting last month went till 10:30, but I don't think that was our fault. I think that was the commission's problem more than ours. So at this time, it would be nice if you would, at the end of certain discussions, if someone's waving their hand, it might be nice to listen to a taxpayer. That's a good trial.
So perhaps what we should do, let's go through this 30-minute period and see where we are, and then the commission as a whole can make a determination of how they would like to proceed. How does that work?
That sounds great. It's just that I don't know, I don't have questions or comments because the meeting hasn't started. So what are we commenting on if we don't have the meeting first? Right.
That's a wonderful question.
Great.
Thank you for asking.
but you don't care. This is what I'm hearing.
No, I'm not, that's not at all what I'm saying. I've spent the bulk of the day working on gun stock. I spent the bulk of yesterday working on gun stock. I work on gun stock about every day. And so I care perhaps just as deeply as other members of the audience or public or management here. So it's not that we don't care, but we are trying to run a meeting where we're supposed to discuss things in public under the law. And if we have an open forum, we will be here for many, many.
I'm not
many
asking
hours.
for an open forum, I'm just saying when you're done discussing the topic, we sit here and we listen, and if someone raises their hand with a concern, can we be heard?
And I think that we are all trying to efficiently and effectively manage that while allowing you to voice your concerns and let us know what your concerns.
Okay, so we can raise our hand.
No, what we are trying to do tonight is try something different so that we can avoid the frustration that the public voiced at last month's meeting of having to wait until 11 o'clock to make comments.
Peter, I don't think anybody's asking for an open forum, and I don't think that would be a good idea. I agree with you, but I think what they're asking for is what we did before, is to pause. When there are certain items that you as chairman can make a judgment, or somebody in the audience and in the public can raise their hand and express an interest and have a commentary on that subject matter. That would be very efficient.
So let's see how the next 24 minutes or so proceed. Yes, sir.
I'll be brief. I'd just like to point out the obvious, that my comments are gonna be the fifth comment on the subject of public comments. Dr. Strang pointed out that your rule change is to accommodate the public, and I think you heard, and if maybe by a show of hands again, to see if the public feels that this is a good process, or if we should have a chance to speak later. Hands?
Speak of what? Speak of
To speak later?
Yeah.
So are you suggesting that we disregard the comments that are part of the minutes from last month's meeting from people who were upset at having to wait 4.5 hours before they could speak?
Personally, I think the opportunity to do this now is fine, but as Ms. Miller said earlier, if she knows that she'll have a chance to speak later, then she'll hold her comments for right now.
Okay. How do you feel about 7.5 hour long gun stock commission meetings?
Let's go.
Seriously, I don't mean to be facetious there, but if we're gonna have 20 or 30 minutes of comment after every contentious section, we will be here until 2 o'clock in the morning.
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we close this public comment period after 30 minutes from its inception and resume a 30-minute public comment period following the miscellaneous portion of the agenda tonight prior to the non-public meeting. With no additional public comments throughout the meeting.
Anyone second that? I will second that, Commissioner. Any discussion?
So the motion is to have public comment early, have sessions as the meeting goes on, and then a wrap up at the end.
What do you mean by sessions during the meeting as it goes on?
Or comments.
No, that's not what she motioned. She motioned having 30 minutes at the start and 30 minutes at the end, correct?
Maximum, for 3 minutes for each
Yeah,
participant.
not in addition to comment after parking lot, stockade lot, and roll line, reconstruction. 30 minutes at the front, 30 minutes at the end.
Sounds fair.
Are we concluded with discussion?
I would just like to, first of all, apologize for my voice. If any of you people attend a school board meeting, or a city council meeting, or board of selectmen meeting, there are not comments after every topic on the agenda. Some of them have one at the beginning and some have a split, much like we're discussing here. But to have comments during the meeting on every topic will just create chaos.
But that's not what, that's exactly what Peter was saying we can't have. It's an open forum, and that's not what has been proposed. What I had suggested, and I think, I'm gonna vote in favor of this motion. But Peter, I'm gonna ask you to use judgment as chair. When you know there's something that is a hot topic, and the public is interested in it, that you take a pause and see if anybody wants to comment on it and move it along. That would be a good way to have.
Are you asking for the motion to be amended, because that's not the motion that was made nor seconded?
Yeah, I'd like the motion to be amended to include that at the chair's discretion, based upon, the importance or intensity of a subject matter, not every single subject, but as an exception to the rule, that the chair would consider, opening up for a period of time, public comments on a particular item.
So that's a new motion, which I believe would require.
No, I
Would
will
require
not
this.
amend my motion.
Right.
My motion stands. Can we have a vote? Because to leave it to the discretion of the chairman to decide what is a hot button issue, then we're being, we all appreciate your discretion, Chairman Knox, but, my motion stands.
And so we've heard comment from at least 3 of the commissioners, so the comments are closed, and we go to Commissioner Weeks for motion. Commissioner Strang?
Yes.
Lambert?
Yes.
Yes, yes. Wood, yes?
Yes.
So that's unanimous. Enough. Okay, so, I suppose, probably 10 minutes plus into this comment period, are there any further public comments now that we have agreed to have a supplemental comment period at the end of the miscellaneous section? Yes, ma'am.
Pam Cody, Guilford. It's a premature question because the subject hasn't come up, but regarding the audit, I understand there's a request to delay the audit because someone's not ready, and I would hope that that person would be, give his responsibility to someone else who has more experience on the commission than he does, meaning Dr. Strang. I think.
I don't know where that notion comes from.
Well, I'll see what you say after you start talking, but I think the issue here is transparency, and that's why you're sensing, the public anxious about being able to speak. We feel there's no transparency with you. Thank you.
Thank you, and we will discuss the audit committee, under old business, so, any further questions? Mr. Murphy?
A little bit of contrarian, given the motion that was just passed. I know that the Guilford School Board will have a public comment session at the beginning and at the end, but no other questions are allowed. Having spent almost 10 years on my own town's budget committee here in Guilford, we would basically allow the citizenry, the public that would attend, to raise their hand, come to the podium, and say their piece. And oftentimes the selectmen would say, is there anyone wishing to speak to this matter? So I think openness and transparency is paramount, and that gives, that second version gives more. It would or should be up to the chair to be able to say how many, because if you have a room, 50, 60 people, not everybody can speak, and a time constraint could be put into place for that. But I know on my time as the budget committee, very rarely did the public show up, and pretty much it was a back and forth anytime somebody had something to say, and the selectmen allowed that. I'm not quite sure with the number of people here right now that would work, but I do hope that the commission would think about that after this meeting and say, can it be managed? And if so, why not? Because some questions really shouldn't be delayed because they become irrelevant as the proceedings continue. Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, then with about 15 minutes, it would appear that the first public comment period has come to an end.
Crop TV.